Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to paint a foggy scene for you with a different method. This is a 12 by 12 Creative Series stretch canvas by Fredericks. I'll be using golden fluid acrylics paint. This is Viridian green. Prussian blue. Alizarin crimson, and some white craft paint. Now I'm getting out some black craft paint and then a little more white craft paint. This is a goat hair mop brush from Hobby Lobby. It's kind of worn down, but it still works. First thing I'm going to do is just give the entire canvas one coat of this background color, just to cover up all of the canvas. I don't want any white spots or anything like that showing through. And then I'm going to dry that. And I want to make sure that my canvas is completely cooled down before I try to start to blend, because if my canvas is still too warm, it's going to make the blending process a lot harder. It's going to dry the paint too fast. If you need additional help with blending, I do have a couple of acrylic blending videos available on my channel. But basically what I'm doing is just loading up my brush and the paint on the canvas with a lot of paint. Now I'm using a clean and dry mop brush and I'm swirling those colors together to create that foggy, misty kind of look. And I'm wiping off my brush every so often to keep the colors from blending too much. Now sometimes hair does come out of your mop brush. So what I'm doing here is swirling over top of that hair just to sweep it off to the side of the edge of the canvas so that I can just kind of pick it off the canvas. But I do warn you, you have to do that fairly quickly because your paint's going to dry and you may not have enough time to blend. So use that with caution. Normally at this point I would use another clean and dry mop brush to do the crisscross applesauce motion. But this time I'm not going to do that because if I leave it as it is, it looks more like fog and it looks like there's some things going on in the background. So I'm not going to do the crisscross applesauce method this time. Now I'm just going to grab some black paint. I've got another brush, a new clean brush that I'm using for the black. I'm going to start at the bottom of the canvas and I'm going to work the black paint up into the color, the blue color. Then I'm going to use that same brush that I was using to swirl. I'm going to use that same brush to blend those colors together. Guys, I've got some sinus problems going on today with the change of weather. So my voice is real cracky and shaky. I don't know if cracky is even a word, but I just used it. So this is a good example of why it's a good idea to have extra mop brushes on hand. I just carried a little bit too much black paint up into my fog there, so I grabbed a clean brush so that I could blend that out because my other brushes were too dirty to use. This is the brush that I use to paint the background, and I'm going to hang on to it to paint my fog. I'm going to squeeze a lot of the paint out into a cloth, but I don't want to wash it or get it wet or anything just yet. This is a 1-inch bristle fan brush. I don't know the brand, but it's pretty worn down, and I'm sure that any fan brush will be fine as long as it's about 1 inch and bristle. I'm going to use the corner of my fan brush to paint these trees. I kind of feel like every time I paint trees, I paint them just a little bit differently, especially on the same painting. I try to make a variety of different shapes of trees. I don't really want them all to be the same shape, so I have to paint them all a little differently every time. But I'm just kind of using the edge of the brush, and there doesn't have to be a lot of detail on these background trees because they're going to be covered up mostly with fog. Now I'm going to paint the fog, and I'm going to use this really old worn down mop brush. It used to look like this. These are the identical brushes. They're the same size and brand. I guess you could buy a new version like the one on the right and then cut it so that it's got that blunt flat top. This is the brush that I used to paint the background, and I squeezed some of the paint out into the cloth. I'm going to do that again just to make sure I've got most of it out of there, but still some color left. I don't want any big globs of paint on the brush. So this time for the fog, I'm going to use clear matte fluid medium. I'm going to get some of that out and put it on my paper plate. And I have yet another mop brush. This one is from Color by Felix. And I'm going to put some fluid medium on my brush and wipe some of it off. I'm going to put the medium on the canvas first. Then I'm going to use my background brush with the blue color, put some white paint on it, and then wipe some of it off, and then brush over top of that medium. Then I'm going to use another brush to blend it together. I messed up on that last part, so that video was chopped up a little bit and I didn't want to confuse you, so I'm going to explain this again. I'm using a clean brush and I'm putting medium over the canvas first. I'm using my blue brush with a little bit of white paint and I put that over top of that medium. And then I use another clean and dry brush to blend that together. Now I want to make sure this medium is completely dry before I start to add more trees or more fog. So I've used the hairdryer on it to make sure it's dry, and now I'm going to pull out some of those branches from the background trees. This part may seem kind of pointless right now, but it really helps with that distant tree effect, and you'll see what I'm talking about after I cover this up with fog again. Just to kind of explain what I'm doing again, I'm using that brush to put the medium on the canvas first. I'm using my background color brush with some white paint. That was not enough white paint. I'm going to paint that right over top of the medium. Now I'm going to use the clean brush and blend that together. You can do this as many times as you like until you get the desired amount of fog that you want. I was really going for a heavy fog for this scene, so I do this several times. Now, if you don't have enough mop brushes, or you can't get the hang of doing the fog the way that I just did it, you can do it this way as well. I'm going to use that really old worn down flat top mop brush, and I'm dipping my brush in medium first and then the white paint, and then I'm blending it on the canvas with the same brush. I'd posted a reel on Instagram and then a short on YouTube asking if you guys wanted to see this tutorial. But the video that I posted on Instagram and the short on YouTube, it was of like a really nice color of green trees. And I really wish I had used the green for this painting, but I didn't. I went with the blue. I'm not super pumped about how it looks, but I mean, I guess you get the general idea of how I painted the other one that I showed you. Now, the awesome thing about this medium is if you go overboard with the fog, you can use a cloth and just wipe it off, but you have to do it like right after you paint it, because even though it's a slow drying medium, it does dry fairly quickly. All right, guys, that about wraps this one up. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. I'd be happy to help. Thanks again.